Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of LPA Live. We are LP Alliance, an Intercaucus coalition, rebuilding the Libertarian Party and getting switched around on screens while I'm talking. Kyle is so rude. Rebuilding the Libertarian Party and revolutionizing the liberty movement. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I'm joined at the bottom by Kyle Davis for some strange reason. And we are joined by Spike Cohen of You Are the Power. Spike, thank you so much for being here.
I'm very happy to be on. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So pretty much everyone knows who you are at this point. I think many people know what You Are the Power is, but if you want to give us a little bit of an introduction to, if you want to go through your spiel of who you are, and then what You Are the Power is up to lately.
Yeah, so I'll start with the uninteresting stuff. I'm Spike Cohen. I'm a Lutheran. Yeah, boo. I'm a Lutheran now. So all the Jew stuff isn't as funny anymore. I guess it's still kind of funny, but not to me anyway. I ran for vice president, got third place in 2020. It was not close. And most recently, the interesting stuff. I started an organization called You Are the Power, and we find people whose lives are being completely upended by corrupt government officials and bad government policy, and we restore their lives. We get those officials to back off. Their families, their children are returned to them. They aren't being threatened with losing their home anymore. Their charges are dropped. Whatever terrible thing was happening to them, we have that undone. Since we were founded, we've had a more than 90% success rate, and for roughly the last 2 years now, we've had a 100% success rate. We just keep winning.
Wonderful. Yeah, we had Rebecca Massey on the other night, and she was talking about her case with You Are the Power and her work with you all now. Yeah. What sorts of things are you doing lately with You Are the Power? What's exciting there?
So we do all sorts of stuff. We're dealing with some eminent domain stuff across the country. There's been this, a lot of, and I guess this never really stops, but there seems to be a rash of so-called infrastructure spending happening right now, which basically means people's homes and farms being stolen, like hundreds of them, thousands of them sometimes, in order to build or expand a road that literally no one asked for except for the special interests who are going to do the construction and all the work related to it. So it's truly a demand, a command-based project that no one asked for. And, a bunch of people are going to lose their homes and their farms and their whatever else in the process, and they're going to get pennies on the dollar through the eminent domain process. So we're fighting that in Kentucky with an area called Frogtown. It's looking like what's that?
I like the town name.
Yeah, Frogtown. But the thing is, Frogtown's about to lose its character and a bunch of homes if this project goes through. We have had a small victory on that the DOT has said that they've kind of paused it and are reconsidering things. There's a few other places that we're likely going to be doing that same type of fight on, but we're still in the vetting process, and we never go public until we fully vetted our causes. So there's going to be a lot of eminent domain stuff more than likely that we'll be working on. The big thing is the family reunification. We are reuniting parents with their children who were wrongfully taken from them. We've been doing that left and right, and we're actually getting legislation passed. We got legislation passed in one state, and we have other states. In fact, I actually just had a state rep reach out to me about it in their state. We're getting traction to change the policies in hopefully eventually all 50 states to end this child trafficking at scale that state CPS agencies are doing across the country. We're getting Rebecca Massey's case. We got her charges dropped, got multiple officials in her neck of the woods to resign, the mayor, the city attorney, the chief of police. So all sorts of crazy stuff is happening all over the country. And if any of you that are watching this want to be a part of it and you're not already, go to youarethepower.net. We'd love to have you be a part of it.
We figured that was probably going to get plugged at some point. So
yes,
you can also just go ahead and hit the QR code.
Yes.
QR code in the top left, scan that, and you'll go straight to the You Are the Power site.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I've gotten very good. People are like, hey, Spike, how are you doing? And I go, I'm doing join us at youarethepower.net. How are you doing?
Well, and he's got the plug for on the shirt and everything, so you're ready to go.
A walking billboard. Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a resident troll. He's asking a very important question of you up front. Why did you run with a communist? Vermin Supreme, a known communist, Vermin Supreme.
For the most part, we ignore Truth's comments, but every now and then they give us some humor. So you see a comment from Truth on the side of the screen asking, why did you run with communist Vermin Supreme? Doesn't that make you a communist, Spike?
I don't believe that's the definition of communism, is to run with someone who also isn't a communist. But sure, we'll talk about it. So Vermin Supreme is a...
Heard it here first. Spike is admittedly a communist. No.
That is what I just meant. I am actually, yeah. No, Vermin Supreme is like a center left to left anarchist. He's definitely not a communist, unless things have changed. I haven't talked with Vermin in a couple of years, so he may be a communist now. So if communism is defined as anyone who was once associated with someone who has now become a communist, then I've got some terrible news for a lot of people, including possibly the person who asked this. So no, when we ran, it was a very satirical campaign with the idea being that if the party was going to be treated like a joke, and if the ballot access process was going to be treated like a joke, then we treat it like a joke too. It was with the idea that the delegates of the party had to be 100% on board with it, or else it wasn't going to work. And they were decidedly not on board with that. But they did want me as their nominee, so we got that part. But we were very, very open about that. That like, don't go with this unless you want. Like, Vermin Supreme's not going to play serious. He's playing serious during these debates because he's trying to seriously he's taking off the clown nose long enough to tell you what his plan is. But he's going to put it back on if you give him the nomination. And
right.
The delegates said, "Hey, listen, we like Vermin, but we don't want to do that."
Or the boot, as the case may be, not the clown nose, but yeah, he does both. So.
If we say clown nose, he actually did take off the boot, which he doesn't like doing, and but he did it because he did want to say, like, I'm a serious person. There's a serious method behind the insanity, so I want to explain that to you. But it was that boot was going on and staying on if he had gotten the nomination, and we were both very upfront about that. This was going to be a goofball campaign if that's what they were going to go with, and they didn't want a goofball campaign, but I guess they liked me, so I stuck around.
I know she said you haven't talked to him in a while, but this last week, Vermin took everything off except the boot. And so if you go around X, you can find this.
I did not. No, I'm probably not going to look for that. But thanks.
I can't imagine why.
Thanks for the mental image, all the same. But I probably won't look for it.
He's in very good shape for his age.
He's
it's like RFK Jr. It's amazing.
One of the and I think he's natural. I don't think he's juicing. He is one of the highest energy people I know, and he was in his I think he was like 67 when we were running. He was in it well into his 60s, and he had more energy than anyone else on the team, and he was at least 20 years older than any of us. No, he's that's a high energy guy. No, he's in incredible shape. He's a very strong guy.
So I know Amanda said that she's interviewed you before, and I met you down in...
I haven't. Okay. I'm sure Spike does not remember. You were on the Good Morning Liberty podcast at Freedom Fest last year.
Yes,
yes,
and you were the guest co-host.
Yes,
and we just kept deferring to you. Yes.
Yes, and you enjoyed ragging on me.
Oh, we had such a blast. I love that. That was great. Great. Yeah. Okay, well then I'm going to do that again now.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
So Kyle is the master host. That's why we put him on the bottom. So go for it, Kyle.
Okay.
And you and I talked in person for the first time anyway at
in Florida.
LPF. Yep. Right. I still had long hair then.
Yeah, no, I remember you. We at the Daytona Hotel.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The convention. Yeah, no, I typically remember people. I will say this: if you've met me at an event where there's like thousands of people, and our only interaction was like we talked and you got a selfie or I autographed something and we talked for a minute, I may not remember. But like if it's a like LP Florida had like maybe 60, 70, 80 people, something like that, or if it's like a situation like with Amanda where she just dominated the interview, then how could I forget that?
There
we go.
This is my souvenir from LP Florida, where I won the
Tax this piece.
auction for it. Yeah.
Was I the one auctioning? I was the auctioneer for that. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome to the bro hour where Spike and Kyle just trade stories from LP Florida.
That's the way. You should have been there. You were invited.
It is true. It is true. You should have been there. And the crazy thing, since speaking of this entire thing just being about LP Florida, we I was on that Who's Smart? Are You Smarter Than the Politician? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was like a fun thing we were doing there. I'm like, that's great. Someone's like, 60,000 people are watching this. I'm like, yeah, 60,000 people. And they were like, no, really? And I'm like, what? And so I went to it on my phone. Somewhere on that stream, I'm looking at it on my phone. Like, wait, what? 60,000 people are watching this. Pretty crazy.
Free and Terry are actually in the comments already and have said hello to.
Free and Terry, fantastic.
I saw Terry.
So, we had decided to not rehash what are the things Spike Cohen has done in the past very much here, and wanted to talk more about the future. So obviously, You're the Power has been doing a lot with getting kids back to their families, which has been awesome. And like you pointed out, there's the upcoming stuff to try to save homes. What do you see You're the Power and your activism, et cetera, going forward being? Like the horrible job question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, but even further out.
Well, and I'll answer that the way I always did, onward and upward. I actually have never been in a job interview in my life. Well, actually that's not true. I did a job interview when I was 13 to illegally bus tables and wash dishes, and I got the job because I was willing to work for $5 an hour under the table. And so that was my last job interview, I believe. No, I also did a job interview to legally bus tables and wash dishes. And I think I got that job too, but I only worked there for one day. And ever since then, I've only ever worked for myself. So but I do sometimes ask myself what I'd like to do in where I see myself in 5 years, but it's more of like an existential crisis thing than a job interview proper. So I will say when it comes to You Are the Power, I just see us continuing to grow and expand and take on more and more things. In terms of what's the next big thing, it's really been the demand of the public that's decided that. I never thought we'd be taking on state level child abductions at scale back in the summer of 23. And so when the Hernandez family story came to us in October, I was kind of concerned. I'm like, first of all, we're only doing local stuff right now. And second of all, are we sure this is legit? All these things are happening to them, and there's all the evidence shows that they didn't abuse their kid. Are we sure? And we spent over 100 hours vetting that. And it turned out the story was even worse than they remembered it when we started looking at the records. And ever since then, it's just, blossomed into all this other stuff we're doing for families across the country. So, I wouldn't be. I've been recently talking with state level officials who asked to speak with me about how we can work together on, fighting some policy in their area that they need some help, some public grassroots help fighting. And, if you'd told me that was where we were going to be headed a year and a half ago, I would have said from your lips to God's ears, but I wouldn't have held my breath on it. And it's just, I just see us just continuing to expand, more and more people getting involved. In just this last year, we've more than tripled the amount of causes that we've been able to take on, and we're continuing to win on all of them. Right. And in some cases in record time. The Cortland City Council thing, we didn't even really get to start having fun there. They immediately backed off. That was the one where they were threatening to implement a license requirement for your wheelchair, where you would have to buy a license to be allowed to use a wheelchair. Yep. And which is literally insane. And but we alerted the public about it, and within 24, 48 hours they completely backed off and voted down even looking at it, and so that's not happening anymore. And it was the entire thing, not just wheelchairs, but they're not even going to require licensing for scooters or golf carts and stuff like that. So I mean, they ended up just killing the whole thing rather than having to deal with us. So I see us just continuing just more of what we're doing and higher level. I would not be surprised if we start hitting federal stuff sooner than later.
That'd be awesome. Speaking of the wheelchair information and obligations there, for those who will remember, we had Tom Queter on recently, and so go support the MIF, Mobility Independence Foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe Tom sent us a link previously that we were to bring up while you're here.
Oh, this.
Oh no. Is this the? I think I might know what
you
this
likely
is.
know what it is. And Kyle's both producer and pretends to do interviews sometimes. So as he gets the tape here.
If it wasn't TikTok, this would be easy.
So you do. I mean, the work that You're the Power does is there. We
Yep,
go.
that's it. That is it. Yep, there we go.
Play it.
This is good.
Right.
For anyone who was taking me seriously a few moments ago, watch this. That'll cure you of that.
Yeah. Come on,
I think free to the soundtrack here.
It's me singing.
Is that you singing or is that free?
No, that's me singing.
Oh, good.
That's the Jurassic Park theme song,
Yes.
like the original one. Now, why the Jurassic Park theme song? I don't remember. I think there might have been a reason, but it escapes me in this moment.
It was a sweeping score. It was maybe like kind of quasi Never-Ending Story, but not actually Never-Ending Story. It is,
but Never-Ending Story would have been a better fit. But yes. It was just a very like impactful score, and it's like that's
a load-bearing score.
And yet the city of Cortland wanted to require a license for that. Yep. Disgusting.
Absolutely. I also do work with the MIF. We have several people who have either been with or currently with the You Are the Power that we've worked with directly. Like Rebecca was working with us in Arizona. And then, of course, when she got the gig with You Are the Power, she's like, hey, guys, I have to step back. And in a similar vein, Mimi was further back. And then after no longer being with You Are the Power, now Mimi's working with us.
Oh, nice. So, very good. Yeah. No, we love Mimi. Mimi was one of the original people that was with us, and she's also been a dear friend of mine and Tasha's for many years now. We love Mimi. We just got to see her at the California convention.
Very cool.
Gosh, was that 2 months ago?
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember we covered that.
An old man.
So You Are the Power is predominantly grassroots, right? It's not, unless I'm mistaken, it's not lobbying. It's just you use grassroots campaigns for change. Is that correct? It's just amassing people.
You make bales of grass.
Yeah, we actually take we don't grow grass. We just let them root.
Okay.
And then we just are at that beginning of the stage, a real ground floor opportunity. And then we hand it to the grass people. So we're just the roots. No, what we do is
you give the grass the special hug to get it started.
We're not doing special hug. I'm embargoing special hug talk. We've already done that. Although it did get us 60,000 views, so maybe we should lean into it. No, it's grassroots in that we leave it to the public. We give them all the information. We give them a page on our site that they can go to and easily interact with these public officials and tell them, hey, back off and do the right thing. But it is grassroots in that way. The one thing is that where it's, I guess, central or top down is that before we'll take on a cause, it goes through our vetting process. And that has allowed us, so it's a nice mix of making sure from the top that this is something we want to take on, and then from there just handing it off to the swarm and letting them do their thing. Because by having that little bit of vetting at the top, it's allowed us to not fall on any landmines. Because we do. We have people that reach out to us and they claim that their kids were taken from them wrongfully. And then we, do a little bit of digging into the cause, and it's like, no, they probably were in the wrong here, or at least there's a lot of question marks here. We can't take this on. Or, someone that claimed that, their property was being taken wrongfully, and then we look into it and it's like, no, there's a lot of stuff here we weren't being told. And so just things like that. And so by doing that vetting beforehand, not only do we make sure it's a legit story, but we also make sure it's something that's like that we can build a movement around. Like, I'm sure, like, someone comes to us and they say, I was given a ticket for going 15 over the speed limit, but I have a dash cam footage to prove that I didn't speed. Well, yeah, you're in the right, but I can't build a movement around justice for the speeding ticket guy, right? Like it's
right.
There's not enough meat there. It's like this guy might face having to go to court and plead guilty and get 0 points and a $75 fine. Like, it's just, I can't build a movement around that. I can build a movement around like your home possibly being taken from you wrongfully, your children being taken from you, your business being stolen from you, being arrested for no reason, that kind of a thing. So we vet it to make sure it's legit. It's something we can build a movement around, and that there's something we can feasibly do about it. Like if the answer to this cause is we have to end the Federal Reserve, then that's not something we can really take on right now. I want to be able to take on things that we actually have a shot of doing now, not some future where we've built up a big movement, but like right now. And so, yeah, we can take on state level stuff. We can take on local stuff. And soon enough, we might be able to take on some lower level federal stuff. But if it meets that criteria, then we basically hand it off to the swarm. Here's the content. Here's who you reach. Here's the page. Share, tag, email. And it's, like I said, it's been working 100% for the last 2 years, 100%. And for the last just over 3 years, we've had a more than 90% success rate, even though it does sound like something an 8-year-old would come up with. Like, it's like, well, why don't we just go tell the people who are doing the bad thing to stop? And you go, yeah, it's nice, kid. I agree. One day you're going to grow up and realize why that doesn't work. It works.
Yeah. When it's enough people.
Scale, it works.
Yeah. And I think that's the huge thing with collective action, is that it needs to scale. And one of the biggest problems is when you have the first movers and they're trying to get more people to come in, that can be hard. Did you find that recruiting attention was difficult when you had these causes? You sort of already had a platform, so I imagine it was easier to get people's attention when you're talking about a cause, when you're talking about a case. But did you find, or did you struggle at all with galvanizing people to actually send that email or make that call?
No, I wouldn't say so. We haven't had a problem with that, because it has been the causes themselves, for lack of a better word, they sell themselves. I mean, when you hear about a family losing their children because their kid has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and it's causing them to have fractures, and every single medical expert says that there's no sign of abuse, the fractures are caused by Ehlers-Danlos, and the family courts are intentionally refusing to allow that to be admitted into the court, and they're instead like just explicitly pretending that these children are being abused. And then we can show that the reason it's happening is because that's how they get their federal funding, is by making all these allegations of abuse. There's two groups of people. There's the people that want to help us, and there's the ones who just don't really care to help us. But we don't really have people that are like, I think that the government should be taking kids wrongfully from parents. Like, it's not, we don't get pushback. And for the most part, like, if 10 people look at it, 5 people are fired up enough to actually send out the email and share it or whatever. So we've had a really good success rate. It's like, we know, like, when we have tens of thousands of people that are looking at this stuff, we have tens of thousands of people that are emailing these officials, which is why they back off so quickly, because these people are not used to getting that kind of heat. They're not used to getting, like, they might, a family court judge might get an angry email from one of the parents that's in court or whatever. They're not used to like 50,000 strangers emailing them angrily about the exact same thing, and like seeing their name on social media and being told what they're doing in court to these families and stuff. They're not used to that, so they just back off.
Cool. So You and I talked a little bit about the purpose of LPA, and you may have looked into it more since then. I don't know. But one of the
Kyle, he's studied all of it. That's all that he's done in the interim. It's just
definitely
looked up, LPA, what we do.
My team is angry that I've stopped caring about You Are the Power because I've almost obsessively been poring over.
As it should be.
And I mean, I can almost like recite it backwards. It's
perfect.
It's kind of like it's. I wake up and I'm saying it. My wife's like, enough with the LPA, and I'm like, but you need to know. It's like, no, I'm at least somewhat familiar. Yeah.
It's we did invite Tasha for tonight, and she said no. She's surprised to know. She was like, no, I'm not the one that goes on camera. That's his problem. But a lot of one of the things that we've preached repeatedly is that if the the LP wants to win in the future, activism has to be part of the movement, and the LP has to be backing these activist groups. So that's part of the reason we love having activists on here. It's this sort of activism is like our bread and butter and things that we want people to get involved in.
Or at least backing causes, because there are 501c3 concerns and all that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yes,
and the thing is, the party can endorse us all day long. We just don't. We don't endorse parties. We don't endorse candidates. We don't endorse campaigns. And frankly, like from our ethos, it's we don't actually care who gets elected. Whoever's sitting in that seat has the agency to do the right thing, and we think with enough, respectful but insistent pressure, they will do the right thing. That's what's been happening. So. But I will say this, if you want to do liberty stuff, and I think I use this, I don't know if I use this analogy in Florida, I know I did in California, but trying to use a political party for activism is similar to trying to use a main battle tank to take the kids to school. You can do it, and it's actually pretty fun. But you're going to tear up the, it's going to, be really inefficient. You're going to spend thousands of dollars in gas to get it there. You're going to tear up the roads, and all your neighbors are going to be scared of you. And so it's not quite as dramatic if you're trying to use a political party for activism. But the reality is a political party comes with all of this regulatory baggage. So like FEC and state board elections. And, so like you can't, there's only certain amounts of money you can take from people to do different things. And the other thing that's arguably even, it also takes resources away from what the party should be doing, which is running for people for office and trying to contest elections and get ballot access and all of that. So it kind of robs from that. But at the same time, it brings a lot of baggage to it where it's like, the Libertarian Party, or for that matter, the Republican Party, Democrat Party, whatever, we support this. You're going to have some people that kind of reflexively go, well, now I don't know if I support it, right? We actually had that in a case, a cause we had in Gastonia, North Carolina. The local Libertarian Party was actually one of the ones that brought it to our attention. Then the Republicans and the Democrats got involved, and it was, we had obviously talked about thanking the Libertarian Party of Gaston County and of North Carolina for helping us, but we were a little bit more trumpeting when it was everyone was involved. Because now it didn't seem like a partisan thing. So with that said, if you want to do activism stuff and education stuff and get people into the movement, you don't see Republicans doing that through the party. You don't see Democrats doing that through the party. You see them doing it through those same people
channel that they own.
They get involved with conservative groups or constitutional groups or progressive groups or left-wing groups or whatever. They do it in the activism sphere, not in the like political party sphere. So what I would say is, if you want to spread liberty, a way to do that is through the party. We don't try to, this is not a zero sum. I'm not telling people stop supporting whatever party you support, whether it's the LP or the RLC or whatever, like whatever you're supporting. Keep doing that. If you think that it's fruitful and that's what you want to be involved with, fantastic. If you want to do activism, if you want to do education and advocacy, especially one that's effective, come join us at You Are the Power by going to youarethepower.net or by using the QR code over here.
It's all just a pitch for You Are the Power. No, and our thesis is also, so you're mentioning the the Republican or the conservative, the progressive activism groups, which as we know, like the RNC and the DNC or whatever party are often behind that. You had, I think it was the Democratic Digest, Republican Study Committee, these kinds of groups that are liaising with the media, that are networked with RNC, networked with DNC, and all of that. What we believe is that while the LP itself, while the LNC certainly would be a rather inefficient mechanism for pure activism, it does behoove the movement to have a group that is almost sort of helping to coordinate action, and using all of that and using the resources that the LP has, not necessarily monetary, but in terms of the platform, right? Because when you have that action, and you've run for vice president, so it's not as though I'm telling you something new, but when you have that action, you have that visibility, then that draws the attention to those candidates during election season. So it's almost like an election tool.
We've actually said, and this is, again, we don't get involved in that, but if we're doing activism, taking on a cause in a given area, and there's someone who's either already on the city council or running for city council or mayor or whatever, and they glom onto our cause and use it to help them politically because they support what we're doing, okay, that's on them. They're essentially endorsing us. We're not endorsing them.
Right.
And they can come to our events, if they have something to say, they can say it. Like it is not it's not that they can't be there or that they can't speak. It's just we can't get involved with coordinating with them, endorsing with them, or anything else. So to your point, if there's some kind of organization in the middle that is, bridging that gap between activism and pure activism and pure political, party stuff, and they're doing it on the up and up, then that's fantastic. Again, I am, the Libertarian Party account has shared our stuff multiple times. I think we've had all sorts of elected officials and candidates for office share our stuff, usually to try to make a point about something they're running on. Great, that helps spread the message. We just don't get involved in, and we don't want to. I would say even if they passed a rule tomorrow and said, 501c3s can operate like PACs, we still wouldn't. I think part of what has made us so effective is we don't just not get involved with campaigns, elections, political parties. We kind of strip away the ideological language too. Like we get straight to this family shouldn't have their children stolen. If you agree with us, then come join us. And it's as simple as that. Now, we do have an undergirding principle behind everything we do. We call it the principle of human respect. And it's essentially, we believe that people should be treated like people, and that they shouldn't have force used against them. They shouldn't have coercion used against them, and they shouldn't be robbed. And whenever they are, their lives are worse. And whenever they aren't, their lives are better. And that ultimately points to libertarianism, but it's in and of itself not ideological language. Right. And it's also intuitive, and it makes sense to people. And then we have them realize that includes the government. The government also, which the government's just people as well. We should expect, if those politicians weren't politicians, we would expect them to treat us this way. But when they are politicians, a lot of us are like, oh, well, they're in the government and it's bad policy. No. They're still the same people. And so the tact that we use when we reach out to them is we don't talk with them about how this looks politically or anything. We use language like saying, hey, what if this was you and your family? What if this was your great grandfather that was being forced to move out of his great grandkid's house? What if this was your home that was about to get stolen for pennies on the dollar because of a road expansion that no one asked for? And if you wouldn't want that to happen to you, don't do it to them. And we hope you do the right thing so we can thank you. That's the kind of language we use. And it's been wildly effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the point that you were making earlier, that is one of the longer term roles that Kyle just leaves when I start to talk, and I don't know. It's very disrespectful. He does this all the time.
Every time you talk, he's like, I'm done.
Camera's off.
You know what I think it is? I won't say this while he's here, certainly. I think he's kind of jealous. And I think he's like, wow, Spike is right. She is so good at interviewing. And it tears him up. And he's like, okay, you know what? I don't even want to be seen on this. So we'll clip it later. What?
He says that's factual.
It's just factual.
He's not denying it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
All right, so I will say it while he's here. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. That's one of the longer term aims for LP Alliance. Since we are not the Libertarian Party, we're not the LNC. We try to bring people together. Yes, beginning with the party, but also just in the broader liberty movement. And one of the things that we believe is that the Libertarian Party is for libertarians, yes, but libertarian or liberty-based activism is for everyone. So it's one of those ways to bridge that gap, right? And people aren't going to go and just Google the Libertarian Party platform. But if they see, I mean, unless you're me, because I'm crazy. But
No. I've heard people that are like, we just got to tell them the platform. And I'm like, have you met people? Like, have you met a person like outside? Have you talked? You walked up to a person who's breathing and just started having a chat with them? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, but when they see mass action, right, and they see the various persons who are behind it, not just libertarians, but they see sort of the support and the ideology through action and get to participate in it, that is what moves people more than just reading something on a screen. So that's that's one of the ways that we believe in bridging that activist arm with the more political candidate-based arm. But it's true that, the face of activism is certainly changing, just, I think, with digital media, with all these technological innovations. You Are the Power hasn't been around long comparatively. No, I really shouldn't, Rob. I really shouldn't.
Entire essay right now just to Spike.
No, that's like a 7-hour read time. I just parroting.
Listen, I will probably fall asleep at some point. Just take a nice nap. If I can, I'll have dinner here. You can just go through it. I think this is what should happen.
We can, we'll just do a follow-up where I'm just reading
we'll do a follow-up where I don't even talk.
Reacts.
I just sit in, fly on the wall. You read an essay.
Yes,
that'll be the next time.
React videos. That'll be great. You Are the Power hasn't been around for that long, comparatively speaking. Have you seen changes in the way that that activism is conducted? Have you seen various techniques coming up that you haven't before? What are some changes, if any, that you've observed or that you anticipate?
Well, I will admit that as long as I've been involved in You Are the Power, I've been less. I've noticed less and less of like what's happening in other sections of the liberty movement, just because we're so involved in You Are the Power. Right. So I can largely speak to what we've been doing. We originally thought we'd be doing a lot more on the ground, rallies and stuff like that. And I used to jokingly say, one day we're going to reach a point where we're so, amazing at what we do that we won't even have to do stuff in person. And that kind of happened. Like back in the day, I would have had to go to the Cortland City Council and there'd be a viral video of me telling them like how foolish what they're proposing is and all of this stuff. And that's not happening anymore. They are backing off before that can happen. We do still some in-person stuff with some of these causes and things like that, but it's not happening like it used to anymore. And it's more and more online because it turns out like if a lot of these councils and a lot of these zoning board members and CPS workers and all these other people, you get like 10 to 50,000 angry emails. You just it's like, okay, what do they want? Okay, I'll do that. Like I didn't, am I going to lose my job for this? Am I breaking the law? No. Okay. This is actually what I should have done. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll do it. And so that's been interesting. We really anticipated to do a lot more in-person stuff. And it's very interesting how that's working, that we're able to do a lot more online stuff. I've actually kind of been a little disappointed that, it was at one point, it was like 2 to 3 times a year, I have these really cool, epic moments of me talking down to a city council. And I still have some of those videos out on Facebook. They're huge. We get like an extra 1 million views a month on them. And they're very popular. And then it's like, we don't do that much anymore. We don't have to. They just back off now when we email them. So that's been one big change. And another big change is that we have really leaned into the approaching these officials like nicely. And we were a little bit more antagonistic initially. And for good reason. I mean, when you hear what they're doing, you want to say bad things to them. And then at some point, we started realizing, we started being a little bit less antagonistic, but still like kind of rough on them. And then at one point, it kind of clicked with me because I thought, okay, we're doing to them what we don't want done to us. We're collectivizing them. You know, we're like, we want to be treated like people, and the government won't do that. And it's like, well, no, they're not the government. They're individual people. And so we started doing that. We're like, okay, we would like them to treat us like people and respect that. So we're going to try doing that with them. That's when we went from having a roughly 90% success rate to having a 100% success rate. That's when like the head of DFACS, the state CPS agency in Georgia, Candace Brose, became our ally. And actually helped us get legislation passed. And now we're on a regular, like members of my team talk with her regularly to kill cases in Georgia that are bad cases against innocent parents. That came from us approaching her again with many, many people and with a very, I say we're consistent, we're persistent, we're insistent. So it's not like we're, just going, oh, hey, could you think of doing this? But like we're doing so with a legitimate desire for reconciliation and for them to understand they did something wrong and actually not just do the right thing, but to join us in doing the right thing. Most of the time, they still just back off for political expediency. Sometimes they resign because they don't want to do the right thing. Either way is fine with me. But every once in a while, they'll actually like legitimately have a change of heart and join us. Yeah, Brian's been trying to get me arrested for quite some time. And thankfully for me and for my wife, who I don't think Brian realizes the heat he'd have on him from my wife if this actually happened. But yeah, it doesn't like I rarely even have to like go anywhere, much less face getting arrested anymore. And it's also hard to like, I mean, part of the reason we never got arrested is, yeah, like 200 people show up to a city council meeting, but we're all just telling them to do the right thing. We're not, and it's a bunch of us. When Rebecca did it, she was being respectful as well, but it was just her and they thought they could pressure her. Right. We thought we'd go to Surprise. I was sure, we'd have to go and do it. We'd all be wearing cyberbully the government shirts, just like she was. Yeah. And we'd all basically be doing what she just did and saying, okay, now arrest all of us. And again, a testament to our success. We won. Charges were dropped. People were resigning before we ever had a chance to book tickets and show up to the next meeting. So I think those were the two big changes, is that it's way more online because we've been so effective. And we've by switching to a more reconciliation oriented tone, we've actually been more successful.
I hate to ask this question, but when you're talking about this, for me, I think that I feel like and he's gone again. It's genuinely every time I start speaking.
As soon as the moment, here came the OBS screen. It was like the second.
It's funny because I don't even use OBS.
Wait, how did you get that? Wait, because
I have OBS installed.
My OBS screen.
Yep, I have OBS installed, but I don't use it for this at all. So if NVIDIA Broadcast crashes, it drops to the next thing in line, which happens to be OBS.
Oh, okay. That's a likely story, but whatever. Okay.
Yeah, it's an excuse.
I think Amanda and I know and so
I already agreed.
We know what the real thing is.
I agreed.
We know what's going on. Sorry, go ahead, Amanda. No, I'm here.
I understand. Thank you, Spike. I appreciate this. We'll just let Kyle hang out in the bottom here.
Yes.
Do you sort of miss the antagonism a little bit? Because that's my first thought when you're talking about it. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks.
So
that's why you became a Christian, right?
So I can antagonize people? The edgy libertarian debate bro in me, it very much misses it. And I also, it got some good positive attention for You Are the Power too, because like, again, those moments would always go viral. Yeah. But the actually wanting to get things accomplished however the best way is possible in me is like, hey, if that's not needed, then it's not needed. I mean, it's way more efficient from being a good steward of our donor dollars. It's way better to be able to get it all done online and not have to book a flight and have a hotel the night before to go and speak at this thing and then fly back and all that. Like, I mean, it's definitely it's more efficient and it's faster. And yeah, sure, I'd love to be able to tell a family, oh, don't worry, we'll get your kids back, but first I need to have a viral moment. No, if we can have that happen without any of that, then fantastic.
Yeah, for activism, I'll just take all the questions since Kyle's not even paying attention. Just in the chat. Wait for a second. Yeah, no, he has actually. This is not a joke. He has a game that involves a capybara, and sometimes we'll be talking on the phone, and he'll just narrate what's happening in his capybara game to me, out of nowhere.
Oh,
so I'm sure.
So is this like an Android or like a phone game, like a mobile app game? Yeah, I get these ads when I'm on like my meme making app. I won't pay I think $5 to get rid of ads. So instead, I make myself watch ads regularly.
I do that
apparently
too, yeah.
that's my time isn't worth $5, I guess. And so I get
the new win.
Or $1.99 or whatever for this app I'm constantly using. And I see the Capybara Go or something like that. Yep. Yeah, no, that seemed like a great way to waste time. Absolutely.
Yeah, he plays literally that same game. So we'll just talk while Kyle plays this capybara.
Capybara Go.
With the coprophagus creature. I think it's definitely a mammal. How do you define success with this? With something like, why are we doing this, Kyle?
Oh, there's a Ninja Turtles. You know what? I'm ending this interview. I'm going to download this thing right now.
Yeah, right?
You didn't tell me there was a TMNT crossover.
Yeah.
Is it the original TMNT or is it this like Gen Z alpha skibbity Riz toilet nonsense? Like, is it? I want like an actual real Ninja Turtle.
It's OG, but I mean they're stylized for this game, and it's just
Personally, I'm waiting for Oregon Trail Go. I don't know how they would make that work, but
Go.
somehow, no, you just like
dysentery.
Yeah, no. The lamppost is a buffalo, and you just have to point and click, and you shoot it. I don't know.
Goodness.
That
someone
game,
should get on it.
I learned. See, you're all children. I had the original monochrome green and black version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
so Apple II, a real Apple II.
I think these were Apple II. Yeah, it was, or like a
not an Apple II Plus or a GS. No, the original.
Like the original. And so I learned very early on. I'm like
the one that caught fire.
Ours never caught fire, as far as I know. I did crash our county school land network by entering DEL ****,
oh, no.
and then
worked. That's their fault.
I didn't know. My uncle had just told me about it, and I'm like, "Oh, that wouldn't work," and it literally crashed everything. Like,
that's their fault.
It was a crisis. That's what I thought. I was like 12. How is
anything?
This?
Yeah, anything government related is just terrible with technology. So anything that is administration.
I just pressed the thing that made it happen. That's not my fault. I'm a child. Anyway, so I did get detention for it, but anyway, so the Oregon Go. I know this was your question. I learned very early on with Oregon Trail that that you just max out your ammo. Out your ammo. Constantly feed your family until they're fat. Because if they're constantly being you want to get to Oregon Trail with like a BMI of like north of 40. And because then some weird glitch in the thing, they won't get sick if they're just constantly like just stuffing their face with buffalo. Then that's the cure for all disease. Someone should tell RFK this. That's all. You just constantly eat. He probably would say this. Just constantly eat buffalo all day long. And when you're not eating buffalo, you're shooting buffalo. It's just you're just a buffalo consumption machine. And all the way to Oregon, and I'd make it every single time.
That's incredible. I didn't know that.
I started doing the carnivore diet.
I was going to say, we thought we were going to get Spike Cohen tonight, but instead we got Jordan Peterson. So,
or Michaela Peterson, but yeah,
shooting buffalo. Yeah, this has already been derailed, and I'm going to derail it a little bit more because
That was great.
I've never tried Jordan Peterson before. It just kind of happened.
You shoot the yeah, I can't do it either. I think it's you're supposed to sound like Kermit the Frog, but like angry or something like that. There was someone who broke down how to do it, but I don't remember.
Bloody terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Angry Kermit. That works. No, with Oregon Trail.
Everyone used to shoot the buffalo.
That was just normal Kermit.
Yeah, no,
See, I would think if you
that
had
was closer. That was closer.
An obese family, and I promise we'll get back on track.
This is it.
Not my show.
This is the rest of the show.
Really, yeah, I mean,
I would think that if you had an obese family, right, then you would make it would be harder to ford the streams that you always have to go across. But I guess not. No, that's the first thing that I was thinking. But
you're
also,
heavier, so like you stick down better, you get traction across the water.
You just flip over.
What?
Yeah, you just sink.
Tell me more about how you don't know about boats. But anyway,
I know that islands capsize, Kyle. I learned that from watching Congress talk.
That's because they weren't fat enough.
Yeah. No. But what's funny is that Kyle and I have routinely argued about whether BMI is a good indicator of whether someone is overweight, and so for you to bring up BMI
if
once
it's high
again
enough,
vindicates
yes.
me. Yeah, exactly.
If you have a BMI of 100, you're probably not healthy.
Yeah,
sure,
if it's in the 40s, then I don't think it's a muscular thing. I don't think you're big boned anymore. But I remember they said that Mel Gibson was overweight, his weight during Braveheart. This was probably 20 years ago. And they were naming all these different people, and they're like, yeah, all overweight. And this person who's not even overweight is technically obese. So yeah, that's why I'm saying it's got to be north of 40. If you're in the questionable region, you're going to get dysentery. If you are so filled with buffalo meat that it's not even fat, it's just the flesh is still working its way through your system, and it's just you're just heavy with meat.
It's not even, go to the buffalo. It's not even on you anymore.
It hasn't even metabolized into fat. It's just the sheer tonnage of meat that you're shoving into the whole system there. Then you will not get dysentery.
I think it's the keto diet actually that's helping that.
It's the keto diet.
So low carb, yeah.
It's the weight of the ketones.
Yes,
that is really you're 30% water and 20% viscera and 50% ketones.
And then the ketones just absorb the germs. It's wonderful.
Exactly. So you understand science.
Yes, there we go. But before this all took whatever turn it did down the Oregon Trail, I think I was asking you how you define success for your organization.
Yes, that was what you were asking.
Okay, yeah.
So when we say our success rate, we mean the official getting the outcome that we wanted. So whether it was, getting charges dropped, getting body cam footage released, getting an official to resign, although usually we don't push for resignation, we just push for accountability. Sometimes it looks like resignation. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, heavy with meat. But not in a dirty way. I mean food. But getting children returned to them, to the innocent parents, getting an eminent domain action, getting them to back off of that. Those are all what a success looks like. It's whatever outcome we were pushing for. When it happens in part or whole, we at least declare partial victory, and then we keep pushing forward until we get total victory.
Nice. Kyle, would you like to participate?
I have been.
Okay.
We just talked about being heavy with meat and children. I don't know what you're expecting here. What more am I supposed to bring to the conversation, Amanda?
Germane questions about you or the power and activism in the liberty movement.
Yeah, Amanda is trying desperately to keep me on track. And
trying to include you, Kyle, too.
I'm doing my best to twist the track and see where the train goes without the track.
That's the problem. You're playing Capybara Go, and then you're like, meat? Tell us about the meat. And then you're back to playing the game.
I wish. One of the things that we've been trying to ask everybody, and I realize that you might have to be careful on the question,
sure,
is what do you see for the future of the Libertarian Party? not the movement as a whole, but the
Yeah,
actual.
just specifically the party. Yeah, no, I can talk about that. I'm a member of I'm a lifetime member of the party. I was the 2 cycles ago, I was I guess second at the top of the ballot there. So yeah, no, and I want the party to do well. Like me personally, I want the party to do well. I look at that platform and that aligns more than any other party that's out there, and it's not even close. So no,
so
absolutely.
You do look at the platform. You are one of the weird people who goes and you read the platform.
I am at least mildly autistic. Yes. Actually, I don't want to use that term. I am neuro-libertarian. And and so I do occasionally glance at the platform just to remember, just to feel something.
Are you telling me that you've never walked up to people and been like, "We, the members of the Libertarian Party, challenge the cult of omnipotent state and defend the rights of the individual," and they didn't just swap immediately?
I mean, I should try that, shouldn't I? I guess I never leaned into it enough. But
well, I mean, that's what the LPRC will tell you, right? The radicals will tell you that you just haven't tried hard.
Hey.
Just tell them the platform. Like, oh, how are you going to help me? I'm going to help you by reading the platform to you in its entirety. And if you'll just sit there, you'll get it. And it's like, well, yeah, but what about like my kids' healthcare? Again, just listen.
We'll get to that part. Yeah.
We need to start getting out pocket platforms along with pocket constitutions to everybody.
Section 8, yeah.
We will take your child to the doctor just as soon as I'm done reading this. So no, it's I definitely align the most with the party, and I want it to do well. I think that it should be, and this has always been my opinion. I believe that the party should be laser focused on party stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that the same people that are involved with the party being laser focused in the party on party stuff should do activism stuff elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And then and the thing is, you can actually grow I tell people, like, okay, you're running for office. When you're running for like a local office, especially, but even if you're running for Congress is still a kind of local office, and that you're representing that constituency. You're not, if I were running for Congress, I'm running in my backyard. I'm running in South Carolina District 7, which is mostly like the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach area. I'm not running in Oregon. Like, I'm running here. I'm not even running in upstate South Carolina. I'm literally running in like a roughly 30 to 40 minute drive around where I live. And
how close are you to Greenville?
What's that?
I said, how close are you to Greenville? Because Ken Molman happens to be nearby.
About 3.5, 4 hours, something like that.
Gotcha. So still far from Ken.
That's where the Lions live, Jason and Kelsey. But anyway, that's where Joe lives too. What am I talking about? That's where Jorgensen.
Yeah.
And I saw recently someone was, and I think they were criticizing Joe, and I don't know if they were doing like text to speech. But it came out Joe, like Joe, George Jensen. And I thought, if I could go back in time and unironically, just in print, refer to my running mate as Joe George Jensen every time, I think there's something there. Anyway, so no, I think the party should focus on party stuff, ballot access, membership. There was this thing a while back called Project Archimedes, and it's the membership was at its highest, like 30.
Guess what's back?
Kyle loves talking. It's this and the capybaras, honestly, Spike. So you got his attention now.
Yeah.
Guess who's on the new Project Archimedes?
Yeah.
Membership Go. That's what we're calling it. Membership Go this time. But no, I think you got to have a grassroots. You have to have the people on board. You have to have you have to have a certain level of just the monthly funds are coming in. And you have to have an attainable goal that you can get people behind. Membership's where that's at for now. So I think that that's a big thing. Membership, ballot access, getting candidates on the ballot, and focusing. And I've been saying this for 5 years now, even when I was ironically running for vice president. We need to put the majority of our resources into races we can actually win. Like, why are the millions being spent on me knowing I'm going to lose? Like, don't do that. Put it in the city council races. Put it in the board meeting, the school board and the zoning board and the county council rate. Like, put it in the boring stuff, because those people get elected, and then people learn that not only can libertarians win, but when libertarians win, you win too. It's not just you got to get one over on your Democrat neighbor or your Republican neighbor. Ha ha, we won. But actually, you're both really losing. You actually win too. And then when people are going, libertarians can't win, we're like, no, we do win. Look at what happened when libertarians took over this city council, this county council, this school board, this whatever, this dog catcher, whatever. Like, they do better at it, and then they can build their way up from that. You can build your way up from city council to mayor to state rep to a state level job or even something in running for Congress or whatever. So I think that you do that, and then if you want to do activism outside of that. And hey, if you're thinking of running for local office, understand that most people aren't going to ask you what your principles are or what your platform is. They might ask what your policies are, but they're more than likely going to ask you a really infuriating question that we would hate to have someone ask us, like, why should I vote for you?
Yeah.
And do you care about me? And reading them the platform does not demonstrate that you care about them.
Just got to read it in the right voice. But go on.
What's that?
I said you just got to read it in the right voice. You have to
read it in a very
Jordan
voice.
Peterson voice. Yeah.
Yes. But one of the good ways to make a name for yourself. Oh, and a question you can't actually answer directly, which is, do I even know who you are? Well, you know, a great way you can get known in your community is being involved locally with causes in that area that people care about. And showing up to stuff that matters to people in that community and having the best answer and having an attainable way of doing something about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So whether you do that through an organization like You Are the Power by going to youarethepower.net, or whether you do that on your own, then you or clicking on the QR code over here on the top left, either way, or doing both. That's actually a good way, potentially, if you wanted to, for you to be able to run for something in the future. So I mean, it really, they all feed each other in a way, but at the same time, you do have to kind of separate out what this is useful for. If the political party is a battle tank, then activism and advocacy nonprofit is like a Sprinter van. That's actually a good thing to take the kids to school in, right? But you wouldn't want to go to war with that. You actually can't go to war with that. You're not allowed to do campaigns and elections with a 501c3, or even just you doing your own thing without even creating a formal organization. You need to have a political party to do that kind of stuff. So it really is like, I think that its future should be, let's hyper focus. I think it is truly a back to basics thing. It's like, all right, we were worried about all these different side things that can be important, but I think what's more important is, are you getting members? Are you getting ballot access? Are you getting people elected to office? Even if it's assistant dog catcher, get them elected into office, get them into office, make them incumbents. There's a guy, why is his name escaping me in this moment? In Florida, in Altamont Springs, Jim.
Come on, Joe. Jim Turney.
Jim Turney. I know Jim. He's a friend of mine. Why I just completely blank. Jim Turney.
He just got reelected to the city commission.
Yeah, and he keeps doing that. And the reason he keeps getting reelected, no one runs against him. Who wants to lose to a libertarian? Like, how do you start your political career? Yeah, I lost to a libertarian. Wait, you what? And so no one wants to run against him. But there's a consequence to this. Jim Turney, as a direct result of Jim Turney being on that council, Altamont Springs, Florida, is the only census-designated metro area in the United States that has no debt.
Well,
that is a demonstrable consequence of libertarians being in office. So let's focus on that kind of stuff.
Here's my question about the winnable races. So you just gave a great stat. I knew nothing about that. And the one thing that I do believe in focusing on winnable races. However, the difficulty is that many people don't know who their comptroller is. People don't know who their dog catcher is. They don't know what the comptroller does.
Yeah.
So the focus on, I would love to have libertarian comptrollers all over the place. Yeah, I know Joe Hanush in the chat is going to jump me because he's going to take this the wrong way. I'm not saying don't focus on these races, Joe. How does that bring attention when even individuals in their own district, in their own state, oftentimes, like, tons of people don't know who their governor is, who their lieutenant governor is.
Yeah, so it's not either or. It's you still run for everything.
Right.
But understand that your presidential, at least for now, your presidential candidate, VP candidate, your gubernatorial candidate, your Senate candidate, and so forth, those are your like best foot forward messengers. Those are the ones you put forward that say the libertarian stuff the best and have a level of you can't just put in someone that just sounds good. There also has to be some level of chops there that if they actually got elected, they don't just, it's not like just, they're not just shock jockeying their way through it.
Right.
They're actually someone that, like, if they had that role, then you could see them actually doing it. But that's where you put that. The people who maybe don't want to be the front facing person, but they'll get in there and do the work. That's where you put in comptroller and city council and mayor and stuff like that. And I will say city council and mayor in the town will get some level of recognition. But more than that, they're getting the resume and the pedigree that lets them run. So instead of me saying, hi, I'm Spike Cohen and I'm running for state rep because you should read this platform. Instead, I go, my name's Spike Cohen. I was the comptroller in our city. And then I was on the city council, and then I was mayor, and now I'm running for state rep. And here are all the great things I did when I was in those positions, and now I'm running for state rep. Even if no one knows my history there, they're like, oh, wow, this guy's, he's done it. And I didn't know libertarians got elected. That's amazing. Let me hear what he has to say. It gives you a little bit more chops there, just the fact that you actually did that. So I do think it's necessary, and you can win these races. Some of them are races that no one's even running in. Like we could literally just, run a bunch of people, like legitimate people, not just people that want to be in there for no reason, but like legitimate people in these races and win hundreds of races for like the filing fee. And and then at the same time, you have libertarians that are running in more prominent roles, who are they're like the messengers, and they help drive attention to the ones that are running at the down ballot. So you do the whole thing. And I mean, there are some states where like their ballot access is determined by how their presidential candidate did, or their gubernatorial or their secretary of state candidate. There's like a bunch of different ways that different states do it. So it's still necessary. It's just, you put the resources where we can win.
That actually brings up a good point, in my opinion. I've expressed, including on here before, that I believe that Chase Oliver got a very unfair shake from the LNC. But given the absolute bare bones campaign that he was forced to run because of some of the difficulties there with not getting that big push and getting the money from behind the LNC's push, he did incredibly well for $400,000.
He had the funding issue. He had all the LNC stuff that was going on. The biggest thing, and Chase may disagree with me on this, the biggest thing that affected that campaign was something that none of us could do anything about, which is that you had a double incumbent race. So in 26, the best race we ever had was in 2016. There was no incumbent running, two highly unpopular candidates who, more importantly, were not incumbents. Hillary Clinton had never been, was not, running for re-election. She was not the former vice president or anything like that. Donald Trump had never run for anything before. And so people just looked at them and went, wow, we don't like them. And so they look and they say, oh, the libertarians are running something. Okay, great. They didn't know a thing about Gary or Bill, most of them. They just voted for not this. And they felt more comfortable voting, basically protest vote. We've got the numbers. When there's an incumbent on the ballot, so fast forward to 2020, now it's Donald Trump running for re-election. And so there were a lot of people who were like, listen, I don't like Trump. You guys are better on policy, but we got to stop Joe Biden. We can't let Joe Biden in there. We got to keep Trump. He's the lesser evil. And we had a lot of people who said, listen, I'm not a fan of Biden, and I definitely agree with you guys more. And we voted for Gary and Bill in 2016, but I'm voting for I'm voting for Biden. We have to stop Trump. America can't afford 4 more years of Trump or 4 more years of whatever. And then and we see it in the years that there's an incumbent, we do worse. And it's because, and this is the part that can bother us, most people that are voting for us know little to nothing about us other than we're just not Republicans or Democrats. We're
Right.
something they can vote for to say, I'm voting for something else. In Chase's situation, so like if you count up RFK Jr., Jill Stein, Chase, and I think the next one after Chase was Cornel West. I think he was the one after Chase. They got roughly, all of them combined, got roughly the same amount of votes that Joe and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just speaks to the fact that there were just fewer voters that were interested in voting third party, because in this time it was initially the former incumbent Trump, who everyone knows who Trump's going to be at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
versus
say that, but a lot of the Trumpers seem very surprised.
well, should have. And Joe Biden, and then later Kamala Harris, who was the incumbent VP. So you had a double incumbent race, and so it was just, you were getting squeezed from both ends there. There wasn't an appetite to even entertain a third party by the vast majority of voters, and so this is part of the issue, is that I think the biggest problem we have, more than the ballot access problems, more than just our funding issues, more than the embargo that we face with the Commission on Presidential Debates, the number one thing that our party faces is the self-fulfilling prophecy of the vast majority of people that we're not going to win, and therefore we're either at best a protest vote that they might be interested in the best of conditions, or we can't even consider voting for them because this election is the most important election of our lives or whatever. And so, part of the reason to do activism is to grow the profile of libertarianism.
You went where I was going to go. So,
okay,
so thank you. Yeah.
Of libertarianism. And if we do well enough at that, we can actually reach the opposite situation that the progressives have reached, where they don't actually care. Like the real progressive, like movers and shakers, the big money people, they don't care if Trump gets reelected.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about any of this, because progressivism wins.
Mm-hmm.
Big government, ever bigger government always wins. It doesn't matter if a Republican who ran as a staunch constitutionalist, blah, blah, blah. Big government, bigger, ever perpetually bigger government always wins. It doesn't matter. If you voted for Trump, you voted for progressivism. Whatever you thought you were voting for, you voted for progressivism. If you voted for Biden or Harris, you obviously voted for progressivism. The progressives figured out a long time ago, if we are the status quo of what people demand, then we're always going to win. Right. And so what I decided is, let's make it so that instead of demanding the government protect us and make things safer for us and provide us with things, what if the status quo becomes people want to be left alone, and they want whatever little the government does to respect them as individual people and to stay out of their business? It turns out that's going to you're not going to have, Trump's lockdowns. You're not going to have Trump and Biden's mask mandates. You're not going to have any of that, because the people are going to demand the opposite of that. And then it'll eventually reach a point, if we were very successful, that it doesn't matter whether a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or anyone else gets elected, because the people are going to demand to be left alone. That's when we know we win.
Right. And I think, again, you make an excellent point. And that's where you branding the cause as libertarian is, to me, important, because then you're able to point to something in your mind if you're a voter and say, okay, that person's a libertarian. I remember that the libertarians were behind this, this, and this.
Yep. And
are able then to make that connection. Again, no Googling and reading the platform required.
Necessarily.
So, yeah, but you can. I mean, it's a good platform. It's fine. But yeah. No, absolutely agreed. And with that, I think, what do you see as, we discussed this a little bit, but what do you see as being the future of the liberty movement, generally speaking? So liberty activism, Libertarian Party, just where the movement is going, how it's getting there.
I think that if we talk to people the way that they think and stop talking to people the way that we think, we'll start to see some real success. There are lots of different ways to approach this, but I think the easiest thing is, we tend to start with principle. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there's no wrong way of doing this. This is just how we're typically, people that tend to, it's noticeable that there's a certain type in libertarianism in the way that we think. We start with principle. We start with we're first principle thinkers. So we start with the principle behind it. Like I talk about the principle of human respect, the non-aggression principle, private property rights, constitutionalism, decentralization, non-aggression, limited government, all these different things. So we start from that principle, and then we apply it to policy. So we go from principle to policy, and then we often don't really have to think about how it affects people because we know it's better. We know if it's based on this principle, this policy is going to help people. And so that kind of becomes an afterthought, the people thing. The problem is everyone else thinks differently, and they're the normal ones. We're not normal. Most people start with people, and then they look for, so for example, when a crisis happens, when COVID happened, we looked and we're like, all right, what's going on here? What caused this? What are, what's the information? It's why so many of us are like, yeah, this doesn't sound like what they're telling us it is. And recreating the conditions of cold and flu season by telling us to only go outside if we absolutely have to doesn't sound like a great way to reduce the spread of this virus. And also you can't tell me what to do. So right off the bat, and we often, we were accused of not caring about people. I think it was often we didn't even get to that point because we're like, yeah, this is stupid. We're not doing it. Other people, when COVID happened, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the most terrible thing I've ever heard. They're seeing all these people dying in China. They're seeing all these people dying in Europe. And they're like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. They don't then go to policy. They look for people to tell them how this is going to get fixed. And you had Donald Trump and most Republicans and the entire Democrat Party telling them, oh, we have this plan and it's social distancing and there's going to be a brief pause of a lockdown and we're going to slow the spread and we'll have to have these mandates and but it's all for our safety. We're all in this together. And people said, oh, thank God. Okay, I'm safe. It's going to be okay. And then we'd show up and go, you idiot, none of this is going to work. This is recreating cold and flu conditions. And then they'd say, yeah, but what about my children? And we go, what are you talking about? This isn't going to do anything for your children. They heard us, and what they heard is, I don't care about what you're worried about. I just want to talk with you about ideas. And most people don't like talking about ideas. So if instead we had started with focusing on look at this family whose life is ruined because their small business was shut down for literally no good reason. They're a small business, but their big box competitors still open but they were shut down. If we started with those types of stories of people whose lives were just completely upended, I think it would have done better than us continuing to focus on the principle of it, even though that's how we think. And so applying that to moving forward with what we do at You Are the Power, with what I hope people that are running for office do, whatever party they're running in, whatever activism you're doing, start by telling people about people. Because they're looking for you, who technically is also a person, to then tell them what needs to be done. And you give them a call to action. And then along the way, you can explain the policy behind it. And you can pepper in language about your underlying principle. And to whatever degree some of them might ever actually engage with the principle, then they'll do that. But the vast majority of them will never truly engage with a principle in any real way in their entire natural life. And we can get as frustrated as we want about it, but that's how it is. If we do people, instead of doing principle, policy, maybe people, instead we do people, policy, principle, I think that we are starting to speak the language of most people. Our ideas make the most sense. We have the truth on our side. All we have to do is present it in a way that makes sense and is speaking the language of normal people. We're not watering down our message. We're not pandering to people. It's actually the exact opposite. We're actually presenting the bold message by explaining it in a way that makes sense to them, by focusing on the people that are affected by it, including them. And I think if we do that, then I don't think there's any upper limit here. I think that we can just as easily, not immediately, but over time, we can become the status quo, just like progressivism is the status quo right now.
And moving into kind of a weird authoritarian populism.
Which is just another, when I say progressivism, I mean in the old school Teddy Roosevelt progressive party sense of the government is a force for good. It is the best way to accomplish things at scale. And we just need to have the right people in charge. And that's what vast majority of people, even if they call themselves conservatives or they call themselves constitutionalists. If you really drill down, at the end of the day, they believe that the government just needs to have the right people in charge doing the right things. And then government can finally be a force for good to do all the things that we need the government to do. And what I'm saying is, what libertarianism says is, listen, at the very most, government is a possible necessary evil for a handful of functions and only those functions, and and possibly even not even necessary at all. But at the very least, if it is to exist and we are to tolerate it, then it should be respecting us as individual human beings, just like we would have demanded if those people weren't politicians, if they were just normal everyday people.
Right. No, the coming to of the progressive movement, right? It's weird because there is a materialistic aspect here where when you had the Industrial Revolution, you had the ability to really centralize business, right?
Yep.
So it wasn't small, you own your own little plot of land and then your farm, and then there's a little, community economy. No, you actually were able to have these big businesses. And so you get into this paradigm of, okay, well then bigger is better. Bigger means being able to do more. Now we have another kind of technological revolution where everything is digitized, everything is able to be decentralized. You're able to do more now as an individual than you could do before, just with technology accelerating.
Yep.
So we are moving toward this paradigm, or we could be moving toward this paradigm of smaller government, more decentralized government, distributed is better, but it's just such a hard mentality to get out of.
It is a hard mentality. It's a very hard mentality to get out of, especially when you understand for most people, it's not a mentality proper, the way that we think of it. It's not based on some like underlying ethos. It's these people seem like they care the most. And the people in my social circles agree with me. We have this sort of consensus that, these people care about me. If you ask the average person why they support someone like a Bernie Sanders or an AOC, or for that matter, a Trump or a Lindsey Graham, for the most part, you're going to have people say variations of, this person is fighting for me, this person cares about me. Like that's what it comes down to. And they've learned that they can give their proxy over to these people in exchange for feeling like these people care about them. Now, if you really drill down, and it's funny, you start telling them about some of the things that their favorite politicians have said and done, they'll go, well, politicians, they all lie. And, it's like, okay, but you just you realize you've given your hopes and dreams to someone you acknowledge is just full of lies. And the reason why you run into that cognitive dissonance, which we want to debate, because we're sure we can get them on our side once we tell them how wrong they are, they're not engaging with the idea. And they're really just getting frustrated at you for bringing it up because they don't care about it. It's not about principle. It's about, this person at some point made me feel like they care about me. And if we're able to do what the progressives did a long time ago, when they'd show up and say, hey, I think that, you should be able to get your weekends off and be able to see your family, and you shouldn't have to work, 100 hours a week, and your kids shouldn't, you shouldn't be having to have all your kids working for you to be able to make ends meet. That was a compelling argument, right? And we can do a similar thing by saying, you shouldn't have to worry about a bureaucrat destroying your life. You shouldn't have 40% of everything you make taken from you before you ever even got it. You shouldn't have the money that you're forced to use devalued down to nothing. Like, you shouldn't have to deal with these things, and there is a better way. But we have to focus on the outcome. The thing that we almost think of as an afterthought, that has to be our main laser focus, because that's what people think about. That's why people don't spot patterns, because they're just always looking at outcome. And we get so frustrated at them. How do you not see this happening again? Well, I don't think it's happening right now. And then it happens. They go, no one could have seen this coming. It's because they're only ever looking at people and outcomes. They're not looking at the patterns. They're not looking at, oh, yeah, no, they did say that last time. And then this happened. And then this happened. And so when we show up, they're like, you have no way of knowing that. Look, I'm looking at it right now. And that's not happening. And we just need to start talking with them in their language. And it works. And it's not, they're not dumb. They're not necessarily wrong. It's just, that's how, for better or worse, God bless them, that's how most people are wired. And it just is that way.
Fair.
And if we're going to make a popular movement, we need them on board. So let's do it.
Yeah.
I cannot honestly say that it didn't go through my head as you were explaining this. The like, but I don't know how to speak, drooling idiot. And then you're like, and they're not dumb. And I was like,
It's not a dumb
oh,
thing.
chastising
It
me,
really
yeah.
isn't a dumb thing. It actually, you know what it is? It's an efficiency of their
Right,
mind, of their brain bandwidth. It's like, I'll leave that to someone who does that. I'm going to go worry about my family. We're the ones who spend. I mean, not all. I mean, it's listen.
I guess I could hear Rob saying that. They're a little dumb.
I've met a few libertarians that weren't necessarily the most brilliant either. It's a frustrating thing. And it is I will say this, there's a herd-like mentality to it. At the same time, a population at scale, this is actually the most efficient way of ideas spreading through a population. You have the innovators who are coming up with the ideas. You have the early adopters who are kind of really engaging with the ideas and then spreading it to the population. You have this like early majority who just wants to, feel like it makes some horse sense to them. And then you have this late majority that's like, all right, is everyone else on board? Okay, me too. And that's like the most efficient way. If we were all inventors and tinkerers, we'd never get anything accomplished. You have to actually scale it out to the population. So it's actually an efficient use of like brain bandwidth at scale for some people to just be like, all right, let's do it. Like it actually is. By the way, it's not for nothing. Libertarians have a hard time coming to agreement on things and moving forward because we're all thinkers. Yeah. So there is something to be said about that.
If everyone were a revolutionary, it would be very bad for revolution. And to get people, basically, you mentioned that there's an efficiency function to that, which I think is why it's important. And this is why You Are the Power does such great work, is because you talk to people as the individuals that they are, right?
Yeah.
You talk to them as parents. You talk to them as students who are worried about speech on campus. You talk to them as, for me, my big thing is like gig economy workers. It's what is most salient in their life. And then what is a specific material demand that you can make regarding that salient issue in their life. So I think that's what You Are the Power does do incredibly well among other things.
Yeah, no, and we strip away the ideology and we're like, let's just help these people. Like there are a lot of people that are involved with our organization that over time they see, there's an actual ideology behind this, but initially it's like, we're just helping people. I've had people criticize me that like, well, are they really engaging with the idea? And it's like, some of them won't, but guess what? Some of them are doing more liberty activism on a day-to-day basis than a lot of very edgy libertarians I know who are full of ideas, but don't actually do anything. Yeah. So like, who would I rather have? If I know this is a false dilemma, but let's create a false dilemma briefly. If I had to choose between someone who may or may not ever like engage with our ideas in any real way, but they're going to be on board with every single one of our causes, and they're going to be sharing and emailing and telling their friends and family and, donating to You Are the Power what they can and encouraging their loved ones to get involved. So that's one choice. Or I have to choose between that or someone who like is 100% on board with the ideas, but they don't really want to do the stuff and they're not sure this is a great way to spread the ideas, and they're going to, go argue online with the people that are helping us and call them not real libertarians. Which one do I want? That's a no-brainer. It's easy for me to choose between them.
Yeah, for sure. Amanda and I are part of an activist group that has people from a bunch of different, it's a coalition, I guess I should say, a bunch of different parties and everything else. And it's really cool to watch Greens and Libertarians be like, yeah, we agree on this thing and we're going to go work on this thing together.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yeah.
And like, that's one of the big things like we talk about with like our solidarity streams, for instance, is this idea that at the end of the day, if you want to get things done, you don't need to look at the things that are different, but the things that you agree on so that you can work on that issue together so that everybody who wants that thing to happen can work on that thing. Yeah. Go find the other people. Doesn't matter their background or what they agree on other things. Go find the people who are pulling in that direction. Go pull in that direction, and then go find the next issue you want to care about.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we don't want another. We look at COVID in the rear view now, and the lockdowns and the mandates and all that stuff in the rear view. But like all those same people are still in office. The guy who's currently president gave a medal of presidential medal of freedom to Anthony Fauci. And yeah, he's now saying, what he needs to say for political expediency. But does anyone for a second doubt that if Donald Trump, or for that matter, Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom or JD Vance, like any of these people, if they're convinced by the right experts that there's a crisis that needs another big government intervention, does anyone here think that they won't immediately do whatever the experts tell them to do? We have to change the status quo at like a societal level where the public is like, absolutely not. Like, I don't care. Even if the person personally thinks that this crisis is a legitimate thing, right? Like, even if they think that climate change or crime or, immigration or whatever is a crisis, no, you're not going to infringe on my rights and on my neighbors and on, and take from our civil liberties and rob us in order to deal with this, because I don't trust you and I want you to leave us alone. That's going to come from a mindset change, and that's what we're working on.
My background's in aerospace engineering, and I actually worked with NASA Goddard on climate change research. That was the second gig I ever had with my aerospace lab at Georgia Tech. And
wait, are you going to try to convince me that the Earth is a globe?
I think it's more of a hot dog. But
I haven't.
I haven't seen where it curves.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's a hot dog for sure.
Okay, no, that's
so
sorry to derail you there.
No, you're all good. When everyone quotes from the NASA GISS data, that was us, right? We built that first model that still is close to holding everything else at this point. And I used to have people all the time. They're like, "Well, do you believe in climate change?" I was like, "Yes." "Do you think it's by people?" I was like, "Yes." They're like, "The government needs to do something about it." "No." And they would just be like, "What do you mean? This is this huge problem." It's like, it is a huge problem. Do the work and fix it.
Yeah.
You don't need someone to come and tell you how to do the work. Go out there and be less of a shithead about it.
I was on I think it was probably Kennedy, but it was one of the cable news shows, and they were talking about a climate change thing. And you had it was funny. It was the Republican, the Democrat, and me always, or the conservative, the progressive, and me. And I'm no expert on what's happening to our obviously flat planet, but a disc-shaped planet that's held up by a turtle. I don't know what's happening to the climate. I just know that it's a flat disc. But so the Republican is doing their standard, this is all fake talking points. The Democrat is doing their standard, this is all real. Republicans want us all to die from the burning sun burning all of us talking points. And then they get to me and I said, anyone here who isn't talking about nuclear energy and is 100% just whistling past this subject. You cannot say that you are serious about climate change. Because the Republican kept talking about energy independence. It's much more important that we drill and get energy independence. And I was like, you cannot claim to be serious about climate change or energy independence if the first and last words out of your mouth aren't about nuclear energy. And it just shut them. Neither one of them knew at all what I was talking about. And I got to basically run the rest of that block, that segment, because their talking points were all gone. And I said, and I'm not saying the government needs to get involved or mandate it, just back off and let new power plants be built. Let the market do its thing, and it will, because the market wants more efficient energy. And whatever the source of that energy is, if it's more efficient, there's less burning. So right off the bat, let's just let the market do its thing. And it was I think it was Kennedy, because she was very happy about my answer. And the other two were just, they had nothing to say, because they were so focused on their talking points that they never thought that there was a way of saying, hey, instead of having this endless stupid debate, why don't we actually fix, let's just pretend that just for a second, let's pretend that both climate change and energy security are both real challenges that we need to face. Hey, there's a way to fix that. And it involves just letting the market do its thing. And we even know what it'll look like. And so, again, it's really just stripping away the ideological language and just focusing on solutions. And I think if we do that, we can really get somewhere.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go for it. No, you've talked so little, and then every time I start talking, then you just go off screen. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are some causes that you see being very important over the next several years? I know that the landscape shifts rapidly, so you can never be sure.
If I almost don't want to say, because it's like, it really is hard to tell. I do think that we're going to have a bit of a fight in for like truly fixing this CPS abuse situation with family separation, because ultimately it's going to come down to changing Title 4E of the Social Security Act, either eliminating it entirely or tying the federal funding to something else. Instead of tying it to the number of abuse allegations they can make, tie it to like the state's population or something, like something that you can't really jimmy with, and something that isn't going to encourage like terrible outcomes. Like just tie it to something neutral, or better yet, I don't know where in the Constitution it says anything about the federal government getting involved in child abuse. So to me, this is a 10th Amendment situation. Let it be left to the states and the people to deal with this. So I think that will be a big one for at least the next couple of years. I do think eminent domain probably will be one as well, but I also suspect there's going to be stuff we haven't even found out about yet that we'll be getting into, and I'm really excited to do it, because I just I used to get angry when I'd hear about our causes. Now I get excited, not because it's happening to these people, because I know we're going to fix it. Like, we're going to help these people get their kids back. We're going to help these people get their charges dropped, be able to stay in their homes, whatever the thing is. I know we're going to do it, and so it's pretty exciting. And if you want to be a part of this exciting thing, go to youarethepower.net or do the QR code here in the top left.
Amanda got lost.
Because I'm not mirrored. I'm not so vain as to be mirrored.
I just want to be able to point at things correctly. So it's potentially a stickier question. Have you guys considered getting involved in some of the immigration nonsense, the ICE nonsense?
We haven't yet, because we're not doing federal stuff. We haven't ruled that out, though. I mean, and if there were a state level involvement, then we could. There's not really a subject where we're like, yeah, we're not going to touch that. It really comes down to like, can we show that the person or people affected are 100% in the right? They didn't do anything wrong here. Right. Is this something that we can build a movement around? Is this a heartstring tugger? And is there something viable we can do about it now? And I would say that even if we could find a person or a family that's being affected by the ICE stuff, and their story is heart-tugging enough to get the majority of the public on board with it, we're not going to be able to take on the Department of Homeland Security right now. Like, we're not there. So
you can help us fight it by buying an ICE Don't Bread on Me shirt.
There you go.
For the sandwich thrower.
Yep.
Is that a
it's a Subway sandwich?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, don't bread on me. It's important. We have actually covered that one a few times at this point.
It's such a great story.
Yeah.
Well, and they've been unable to get a grand jury that, like, yeah.
Grand jury ruled that it was not this horrible thing.
We saw, that's jury nullification. We saw jury nullification in Forsyth County, Georgia, as sort of a punishment for what we were able to do to take away the gravy train for these municipal governments to get their funding for CPS and everything else. They tried to vindictively railroad the Hernandez family by not allowing the jury to see any of the actual evidence. They only allowed them to hear from the child abuse pediatrician who said, yeah, it looked like abuse to me, but they weren't allowed to hear from any of the medical experts who said that there was zero evidence of abuse, that these injuries were obviously caused by Emma Hernandez's chronic health conditions. They weren't allowed to hear from the arresting officer who didn't think they did anything wrong. They weren't allowed to hear that both defects, the CPS agency and the family court, had closed their case out due to lack of evidence of any abuse. They weren't even allowed to hear that the children loved their parents. They were literally only allowed to see this, to hear the opinion of this one child abuse pediatrician who said, yeah, it looks like abuse to me. Thankfully, the jury saw through it, and through an act of jury nullification, they voted not guilty on all counts.
Nice.
So we love this conversation, right? We could talk to you for 6 hours if you would actually
mostly just about Oregon Trail. Yeah.
Yeah, continue talking about. Personally, I would rather talk about Oregon Trail rather than Oregon Trail.
The Oregon
But,
Trail.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Just depends on if you're more into zombies or dysentery. But you know, we don't want to monopolize your night either. Nor do we want like an angry Tasha to come out of the darkness at some point.
Which will happen. No, that will
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Right.
There's
Like,
just, there'll just be like she'll just pull you off
see like
screen. Yeah.
2 arms just pull me upward
Just a
somehow.
claw.
Yeah, she's very strong. Great upper body strength.
I guess then we'll begin our wrap process here. So one of the things that we used to do a lot that we kind of fell off on, but I've been trying to bring back.
Okay.
Oh no.
Amanda's better at asking the question than me, so I'm hoping she'll just take over at some point.
The oh no was foreboding.
Well, I'm waiting. I never want to answer the question. So I mean, like,
Okay.
it's just like a fun question. It's not
Okay.
a terrifying question at all. I just never want to be the one that answers it.
This just sounds worse and worse. Go ahead.
It's so banal.
It's like creating anxiety.
No,
Just
it's
ask me the
not.
question.
Okay.
It's not like
What?
you're not gonna die from the question. Like it's like
Well, this is the massive build out, right? Like otherwise
It'll be disappointing. What is one book that is not directly about libertarianism or written by a libertarian that libertarians should read?
the Bible, and then they should give their lives to Jesus. And so that would be my first answer. And I'm not joking. If they would like something a little more secular, then I would actually go with How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it talks about how to become the kind of person that makes people want to hear more about what you have to say, and they want to be a part of what you're doing. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, it means a lot of listening to people, hearing what they're about, and then demonstrating to them that you actually care about their ideas, and then what you what you plan to do about it. Kind of going back to people, policy, principle. It kind of teaches you how to be a people person. And so I would say that. But again, I would always go with the Bible.
That's fair.
Believe it. Read the Bible. Believe and repent. That's what I would initially say.
We are in some ways on opposing tracks on our religious journeys right now.
Okay.
But at the moment, the Bible is still my book of choice. But we'll see.
Well, there you go.
If the New Testament stays around for me or not. Which
we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. I am totally down. I'll send my number through Brian, and you can yell at me that way.
Fantastic. I'd like that.
So is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything you might want to plug or anything?
Well, thank you. I'm glad you brought it up. So I did not get a chance to mention it before, but if you want to be a part of what we're doing, if you go to youarethepower.net, you can become a member. There's also a QR code. Yes, there over in the top corner,
exactly. Perfect.
To the left of Amanda. There is the QR code, or you can go to youarethepower.net and become a member, be a part of the tip of the spear of the activism that we're doing. And come join the movement. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Spike. I asked the last question the last time that we talked, so I think it's appropriate that once again, other than Kyle asking about anything else to promote, that I asked the last fun question.
Yes.
So yes, thank you so much for being on, and we'd look forward to having you back anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again. And thank you for once again just dominating this interview, Amanda.
It's Kyle makes it easy. I have to say, Kyle just makes it so easy.
He's logged off. He suddenly lost power right then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I swapped.
Thank you guys, and
swapped
to
Brave recently.
Thank you all for watching this and hearing what I have to say. And I